Okay, the time is 9:30. I'll call the meeting, the October 8th meeting of the Millcreek Board of Supervisors to order. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded by the services of WQLN and will be broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1024, which is a Millcreek government channel, and on YouTube.com. Both of them have closed captioning available. Let's see here. The next one, item number 3. We have public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Anything the public would like to comment on regarding our agenda? Being none, we'll move on. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting of September the 24th. Any additions or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 24th minutes.
And do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 5 is approval of the bills. We have that batch, and I think there was one more. Cheryl, is that correct? There was one more submitted today. Any questions or comments on that? If not, I'll also entertain a motion for that action.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 6, bids and quotations. The first one is a garage door, which is from the Planning and Development Department, Code Enforcement, Emergency Management. This was tabled from September the 24th. Since it was tabled, I think we need to get some action of what we're going to do. Is that the correct procedure there, Mark?
Yes.
Just, there's no further discussion on it, just to get some removed from the table. Is that correct?
You would either have the option if someone makes a motion to
Okay.
retable it or a motion to,
Okay.
to vote on it one way or the or
Okay.
another.
I'll entertain a motion on whatever action the board wishes to go.
Well, gentlemen, I understand when we put this project in the capital budget, purposes of addressing some emergency management storage issues. I think since that time, we're currently working on a new inventory system that's almost been completed. We've had some discussions with Public Works about having more of a comprehensive kind of facilities improvement plan before moving forward with this project. So I think it would behoove the board to actually cancel this project for this year and reconsider it for next year's budget. I don't know if Mr. Bach has any additional comments.
Thanks, John. My additional comment would be there definitely appears to be a need for storage, obviously township-wide, but I think that needs to be incorporated into a comprehensive facilities use plan in conjunction with our directors. And I just think it seemed to have come together kind of piecemeal here, and I think that this should be incorporated as part of a bigger plan. So I'm inclined to agree with you there that I think we need to reevaluate what we're doing and move on for next year.
Okay. I think, so with that said, I think I'm going to need to get an action, a motion from somebody
Sure.
here in a second of what our desired action is going to be.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to actually cancel this project and shift those funds into reserve for the current 2019 budget.
Okay.
It was a $10,000 project. I would motion we cancel that project and shift those funds into reserve.
Okay. Is there a second on that action?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? I do have one question. You mentioned that possibly having this next year. Would we look at revisiting the matter again next year after the inventory control is done? Okay. I just want to not to commit to anybody. I just want to make sure in my own head I know what we're going on there. So, okay. With that said, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes, too. Next item is above-ground storage tank pollution insurance. Mark Shahasky.
Yes, our broker suggested that we look into insurance for the various fuel storage tanks that we had. Our underground tanks are covered by a fee that I'm not sure if it's national, but certainly within the states. So there was no need to insure underground tanks, but we do have 3 above-ground tanks. A diesel fuel tank at the East Garage, a diesel fuel tank at the Millcreek Recycling Center, and another diesel tank at the asphalt plant. Those are not covered under the fees that are collected for the diesel fuel, so we're kind of, we don't really have insurance coverage in case something happens to those. And so for a very affordable price of $419 a year, we can get a insurance of $1 million per storage tank with a $4 million aggregate and a $5,000 deductible. The cost of a cleanup could easily be over would definitely be over $420, and it would more than likely be over the $5,000 just because of all the stuff that you have to do to remedy that. So my recommendation is that we go ahead and contract for the insurance for $419 a year for the 3 above-ground storage tanks.
Okay.
And that's with First National, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the insurance policy for the storage tanks with First National for a total of $419 annually.
Do I hear a second on that?
I will second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item is change order number 1 for the ADA project at the Asbury Barn. This is through the Planning and Development Department, Engineering. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, the Asbury Barn ADA project was awarded to Maya Brothers Concrete on August 13th for a total of $14,400. As you know, when they install the ADA compliant ramps, we have to follow strict standards as far as grade and slope for those. When they were installed, we felt it was in the best position to meet those grade requirements, but it caused what we call severe transitions, the spot where the new ramp meets the old existing grade. And so some additional work had to be done on those transitions to remove some hazards, smooth those out. So it resulted in a change order for that project. The change order is in the amount of $2,250. These funds are available in the budget for the overall ADA project. This does take the Asbury Barn above its estimated amount, but we had savings from other projects to cover this change order. So Ann Sokol, the township engineer, would recommend that the township approve this change order in the amount of $2,250 for a new contract total of $16,650.
This is all, just make sure I'm understanding, this is all part of the project consent decree through the Voices settlement, Voices for Independent settlement?
Yes, for our facilities
Yeah,
to make sure they're compliant.
Sure everything's compliant. Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Waldinger, I can't recall, was this project called out specifically in the capital budget, or was it more of a group ADA compliant?
There's a line item just for facilities compliance, but that was broken down into different projects, and this was one of the projects.
Well, my question is, should we also authorize a capital budget amendment?
The line item itself still has a surplus because other projects have come in underneath, so it will be covered.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the Asbury Barn ADA project.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Our next item is the 28th Street Overflow Basin Proposal. Once again, Planning and Development Department. Matt?
Thank you. Yes, this is in regards to the 28th Street issue that we've been dealing with over near Joe's Gym. We've had a property owner over there who has graciously offered an easement on his property alongside the creek in order to install a basin to help alleviate flooding, if that would actually be a feasible project. So the township has sought engineering services in order to examine the feasibility of that project, and then if it is feasible, to provide a design. 2 engineering firms responded to our request, Greenman Peterson Incorporated and Wood Environmental. The proposals were broken up into 2 phases. As I said, the first phase would just determine the feasibility. It would require them to do some surveying, mapping, and soil testing to determine if a basin placed in that spot would work. And if it is feasible, then we could award a phase 2 for them to do a final design and construction documents for that project. The two bidders, first was Greenman Peterson. Their proposal had a cost for Phase 1 of $16,000, and then Phase 2, if approved, would be an additional $8,000 for the full design. They also added in a cost for a feasibility report of $500, and then a charge to provide the data, all the compiled data to the township at the end of $100. Wood's proposal for Phase 1 was Wood's proposal for Phase 1 was $81,072, and for Phase 2 was $83,002. Obviously, there was a big price discrepancy there, so our engineering staff did go through both proposals, make sure they were comparable. They did end up being comparable. They both had the same scope of work. So obviously, we would recommend that the contract be awarded for Phase 1 to Greenman Peterson in the amount of $16,500.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
I would note that
Mr. Shaw.
I reviewed the report, the proposals as well, and the Wood report had an inordinate number of engineer hours for doing the work, so I'm not quite sure how they came up with that estimate, but it was almost 1,000 hours in engineering, which for the magnitude of this project, I just didn't see it.
Right. Yeah. My colleagues, anything you guys have
Well,
questions?
I just want to, again, commend Mr. Waldinger and his team at Plan Development to get this project moving. I know it's been kind of a long process for us to get this moving. I know we've promised the residents to do some improvements, and it's been kind of a long haul trying to get this project to get actually firms to even put proposals in for
Right.
improving the area. So thank you for your perseverance and
Yeah.
getting us to this point, Matt.
Yeah, that's a great point, and of course, this is strictly a feasibility study. It's not any acquisition of property. Once, if it is determined that it's a feasible project, then we may go into the into the acquisition part of it. Correct. So this is just to let people know, this is the 28th and McKee area, that the flooding that we've had when we've had unusual storm events, and we may have a solution for this. This may be it. We've been moving forward on this project, and it's just maybe taking a little time, but I think John has an excellent point there. You guys put a lot of work into it, and it should be commended. Just getting people to show an interest in it. So, the engineering firms, that is. So, thank you. Jim, anything you want to say on that?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll call for a motion on this.
I'll make a motion that we approve a contract with GPI for the 28th Street Overflow Basin proposal at a cost not to exceed $16,500.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Moving on to item number 7, which is Resolution 2019 R55, Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Mr. Nick Bannister, who is the Assistant Code Official in our Planning and Development Department. Floor is yours, Nick.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to present to you the Resolution 2019-R55 Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Be it resolved, the following proclamation be recorded into the official minutes of the Millcreek Township Supervisors meeting of October 8, 2019. Whereas the Township of Millcreek is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Millcreek Township. And whereas U.S. fire departments respond to 379,000 home fires in 2017, according to the National Fire Protection Association. Whereas U.S. home fires result in 2,630 civilian deaths in 2017, representing the majority, 78% of all U.S. fire deaths. And whereas new homes are built with lightweight material that burn faster than older home constructions. Whereas many of today's products and furnishings produce toxic gases and smoke when burned, making it impossible to see and breathe within moments. Whereas these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely. And people having as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape from the time the smoke alarm sounds. Whereas a home fire escape plan provides a skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. Whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms on every floor of your residence, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon accident. And whereas home fire escape plan should be developed by all members of the household, and whereas practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensure that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. Whereas Millcreek Township Office of Code Enforcement and Millcreek Township Volunteer Fire Departments are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries throughout prevention, protection, and education. And whereas Millcreek residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, Plan and Practice Your Escape," to recognize those who motivate a household to develop and practice a home fire escape plan. Therefore, the Millcreek Township Supervisors do hereby proclaim October 6 through 12, 2019 as Fire Protection Week throughout this community. We urge all the people of Millcreek Township to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it at least twice a year, to install smoke detectors on every floor of their home, and to participate in public safety activities and efforts of Millcreek Township Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Comments from the board? We'll entertain a motion to approve. I believe that's what we're going to do, to accept and approve of this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-R55.
We'll hear a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. I want to have one question for you, Nick, and I'm going to, so the public knows, how often should they test smoke detectors? How often?
At least annually.
At least annually? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is item number 8, Resolution 2019-R56. It's a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015-R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. This comes from Chris Filson, our Police Department IT Director, and he is requesting permission to delete dash cam videos between the dates of October 9th and October 22nd due to reaching the end of the required retention period. This is a typical one that we do probably every meeting. So I need to hear a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-R56.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item is item number 9, Resolution 2019-R57. It's a resolution establishing a revolving loan fund for the benefit of the volunteer fire departments of Millcreek Township and the Millcreek Paramedic Service. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, this resolution originated through some discussions with some of the fire departments with respect to requests that they made of the township for loans. The thought was that it might make sense to simply establish kind of a revolving loan fund that would already have set standards and parameters and conditions attached to it to make it more efficient to execute and provide these monies when they are necessary. So the purpose of Resolution 2019-R57 would be to establish that loan fund and direct the township treasurer and myself to take the actions necessary to establish it. The second class township code authorizes the township to insure for fire and emergency medical services in the township by the means and to the extent determined by the township, including appropriate financial and administrative assistance to these services, which in my opinion would include creating these types of revolving loan fund for them. So the resolution would direct the township treasurer to create a Millcreek Fire Department and MPS a revolving loan capital reserve fund by January 1 of 2020 in the amount of $250,000 to be set aside for specific purposes. One would be to be used for short-term loans not to exceed 5 years, to the fire departments located within the township and MPS that are in compliance with all township requirements, and that the funds are to be used only for the purchase and maintenance of fire or emergency medical services apparatus and/or the construction, repair, and maintenance of fire company houses or emergency medical services facilities. In addition, the Township Treasurer, with my assistance, is instructed to create a loan program by January 1 of 2020 that would implement the use of the fund, which it would include terms and conditions applicable to any such loan, such as the interest rates. There's a formula that's within the resolution that would be followed to determine the interest rate, as well as a minimum interest rate, as well as creating the necessary forms needed for that program, including an application and the loan documents. And then lastly, there would be certain conditions placed on MPS and the fire departments in obtaining these loans. One would be to ensure that the loan applicant would provide the necessary collateral or security interest to the township in case they would fail to pay. And secondly, that with respect to the fire departments, the bylaws of those fire departments be amended to reflect that if they should ever dissolve, that the assets of the fire department would go to the township or a fire department in the township designated by the township.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
I was going to comment that I appreciate the work Mark put into this resolution. I think it's appropriate. I think also the work of our Fire and EMS Commission that has recommended this kind of a program. I think we do have the resources to start this fund up to assist our fire departments to ease the burden of interest rates for the equipment they need to purchase, and I think it's appropriate. It's an appropriate thing for the township to undertake.
Yeah. Yep, I agree there. It's we're slowly making progress in regards to the relationship with the volunteer fire companies, and I think we're making some good work there. So, Jim, anything you want to say on that?
Yeah, this, in my opinion, establishes some consistency to the request that the fire departments have, just periodically asked the township over the years for different projects that they've had, and this kind of solidifies that and brings everything under one comprehensive umbrella for that request. And I also want to add that any interest paid goes back into the fund as well.
Yeah.
To be, available for future requests.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. That's a good point. With that said, I will call for a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019 R57.
Yep. Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 10, Millcreek Township School District Student Resource Officer Agreement Termination Request. Mark Shaw.
Yes, I received a request from the solicitor for the school district requesting official termination of the MTSD Student Resource Officer Agreement that is between the township and the school district. If you recall, that agreement provided for or allowed an officer within the township, police officer within the township, to serve as the student resource officer for the school district. Beginning with this school year, the school district has in fact hired that officer as an employee of the school district, thereby eliminating, frankly, the need for the student resource officer agreement. The school district has formally requested the termination of that agreement. I've reviewed the agreement, and I think what we would need to do is just do a real short one-page agreement between us officially terminating it, so that we have evidence of it being terminated in writing, I think, as would be required by the agreement. But I would recommend terminating that agreement and authorizing the chairman to sign the termination agreement.
Okay. So you're asking for us to take some action now? And
Yes.
Then, okay. Questions or comments from the board? Of course, as we know, the school district is forming their own security police department there.
And there have been some discussions about a follow-up agreement to address what their plans are, but they're
Right.
awaiting some changes or potential changes in state law that may impact
Yeah.
what they're doing there. So until that occurs, it didn't make sense to proceed.
Okay. Okay. No comments or questions. I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the termination of the Millcreek Township School District Student Resource Officer agreement with the school district.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 11 is the financial security release request for DJC Associates for property at 2523 Loveland Avenue. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, we received a request from DJC Associates for release of their letter of credit. This was for a small addition, building addition and parking lot addition to the dental office over at 26th and Loveland Avenue. They have completed all of our required improvements. We have the form signed by Township Engineer Ann Sokol, certifying that everything has been complete. So at this time, we would ask that the board release Erie Bank letter of credit number 1563 in the amount of $10,439.
Okay. Questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the financial security release request for DJC Associates.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And so do I. Okay. Item number 12, sidewalk deferral request, 5,000 Watson Road. Patricia Salvador and Prabhav Patel are the developers. Matt Waldinger.
Yes, thank you. Yes, these people have come to us and asked for a sidewalk deferral for a new home that they're building at 5,000 Watson Road. If you look in your packet, the lot is rather odd-shaped. It actually has frontage on Wolf Road.
Yeah.
Watson Road is a private road, so the township would not require sidewalks on it. This is specifically for the sidewalks that we would require along the frontage on Wolf Road, approximately 50 feet. Even as such, there are no existing sidewalks on Wolf Road. So at this time, we would recommend that the deferral be granted with the reminder that if sidewalks were ever placed in this area, the developer or owner would be responsible to install sidewalks there along Wolf Road.
And of course, this deferral goes as recorded at the courthouse.
Correct, and goes with the property.
Goes with the property.
Subsequent owners.
Okay. Okay then. Questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral request at 5,000 Watson Road.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, number 13, September Building Construction Report. Matt Waldinger, this has become your show here, I think.
In the month of September, we issued 6 residential permits for a total increased value of $665,000. We issued 37 non-residential commercial permits for a total increase in value of $394,275. Altogether, the zoning office has issued 43 permits in the month of September for a total increase in value of $1,059,275. That brought in a total of $3,350 in permit fees to the township. If anybody would like a copy of this report, it will be available on our website later today, and a hard copy will also be available in the Planning and Development Office.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, I'm going to move on to communications, and I'm going to ask if I can take this out of order a little bit. The first one I'd like to bring up, Walnut Creek Cleanup Report. Judy? Judy Zelina, who oversees our public services. I know you have another appointment to go to. That's why I'm moving out of order here on this one.
Jessica Stutzman, our recycling coordinator, is not able to attend today's meeting, but I'd like to read something that she's written up concerning this year's International Coastal Cleanup. On behalf of Millcreek Township Recycling Department, we would like to thank the individuals that participated in the International Coastal Cleanup and the cleanup of Walnut Creek at Bridger Park. The event was held Saturday, September 21st, 2019. 7 volunteers participated from Rise Erie, with another 10 volunteers from Gannon University's ZBT fraternity. These volunteers pulled on their rain boots, cleared litter and debris from the stream for 3 hours. 18 bags of trash weighing 469 pounds were collected from 2 miles worth of streams, trails, and roadways surrounding Bridger Park. The entire event was coordinated by the Pennsylvania DEP, while trash and recycling was removed by Waste Management at no cost. All in all, the day was extremely gratifying, and the Recycling Department and Parks and Recreation Department look forward to another successful international coastal cleanup in 2020.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. That's good news to get. Of course, it shows the importance of keeping our water courses clean. That's part of the problem that we've come across there and over the years is the garbage that ends up in the waters. Okay. Now we'll go back to regular rotation here. Treasurer Communications. Mark, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing further.
Okay. John, Mr. Morgan, do you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and we have a request from Diane Lyons for a new hire for our part-time crossing guard subs. This would be the addition of a substitute crossing guard due to medical leave of a normal crossing guard. This would be to hire Ms. Wendy Jo Wolf at a rate of $25 per hour upon the attainment of required clearances. And again, to clarify, the $25 per hour turns out to about $25 a day for our crossing guards. This is how we track it in the system. So
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve the hire of Wendy Jo Wolf as our substitute crossing guard.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. You have anything else there, John?
We do have travel and training requests for admin. This would be for the upcoming Cato picnic.
Conference.
I'm sorry, Cato conference. This is very
Yeah.
important. It's not a picnic. It's
Yeah.
a very important conference
Yeah.
with the Cato.
It's educational, not fun.
It is definitely not fun.
It's not fun. It's
No offense to Tenderly.
Oh, sorry. We're being recorded here. I forgot.
So, Mr. Chairman, this would be a motion to approve the attendance of the three of us as supervisors and Mr. Zakrzewski to attend that conference on October 25th in, I believe it's in Washington Township. Oh, no, it's actually Edinburgh this time. Edinburgh, PA, at the VFW Post, Post 740.
Yep.
And that would be from, essentially, it's an all-day conference from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Total cost would be $100 for the four of us to attend.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes, and I'll be attending that too. Anything else you got there, Mr. Morgan?
That's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, I will, actually, one quick announcement.
Yeah.
We are kicking off our zoning code and
Oh, yeah.
development code update. So the upcoming issue of Millcreek Magazine will be out in November. There will be will be a link to a survey. If anyone in the township would like to participate in that survey, keep your eyes open for that in your mailbox in November. We certainly appreciate any input from the public as we delve into this really year-long process to completely revamp our zoning code. So
Yes.
just want to
Yeah.
put that out there.
Yeah, we're looking for input. Okay, let's see here. We had executive sessions with our solicitor to discuss some legal matters on September the 26th, and also yesterday, October the 7th. That's all I have. Jim, do you have anything from the police department?
There are no requests from the police department
Okay.
today.
Okay, then. We'll move on to our student ambassador report, but a couple things before that. I'd like to acknowledge that two of our counselors from the gifted program at McDowell High School are in our audience. Sarah Palm and Crystal Myers are both in here. And of course, as always, we thank your participation in this and giving us the brightest students from McDowell every year. This has been a great program, 5 years running, and hopefully it will continue there. So anyway, before I introduce our ambassador, I would like you to know that she was selected as the homecoming queen last week for the McDowell Homecoming.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're very proud of that.
So I'd like to begin with some achievements that our McDowell students have worked for this past week, beginning with our McDowell Marching Band, who was awarded first place at their Northeast Invitational. Next, students on the McDowell Speech and Debate team earn points and degrees based on their competitive competitiveness at their tournaments, and their service-related activities. These degrees contribute to a school's strength points, and McDowell's Speech and Debate has achieved over 100 strength points and is being recognized by the National Speech and Debate Association for this honor. Next, the girls' tennis team is proud to announce that senior Abigail Murray competed in the District Girls Tennis Championship this past weekend and has won the title of D10 Girls Single Tennis Champion. Next, yesterday, myself and 49 other students, along with 4 chaperones, traveled to Washington, D.C. and visited the Holocaust Memorial Museum. And we would like to issue a public thank you to the Jewish Community Council of Erie for funding us on this trip and allowing us for this wonderful opportunity. Finally, the National Honor Society is hosting their 2nd annual Trail for a Cause this Sunday, October 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. This is a fun, safe trick-or-treating opportunity for students and children in all ages. And this is a part of the Teal Pumpkin Project. So kids with food allergies are awarded non-food items as well as candy, so everybody has an equal opportunity to trick-or-treat and have a good time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great report. Mr. Shaw, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I do. I received late in the day yesterday an easement agreement that you have before you. As you recall, as part of the transition of the sewer authority to the township, we did a review of all the various facilities that the sewer authority had in an effort to ensure that we had all the proper documentation with respect to those. There were a couple of lift stations where we found that even though the lift station had been constructed and built and is operating, it had not, the land on which it is located had never really been assigned over to the authority. So this document here reflects one of those pump stations. It's for the Asbury Woods Estates lift station, and it's executed by Pastori Inc., the owner of the property, in favor of the township, and would take care of that issue. They have signed it, and I guess I would request approval by the township to sign it, and then we can get it recorded.
Okay. Since this was not on the agenda, we have to get public comment
Yes.
on that. This is regards to a matter was not on the agenda. It's an easement, as Mr. Shaw mentioned. Do you have any public comment? Being none, we'll note that for the record. Okay. I need to hear a motion from somebody.
I'll make a motion to approve the easement agreement with Pastoral Incorporated.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And so do I. Okay, that's all you have, Mark?
That's all I have.
Okay. Cheryl, do you have anything for us?
I do. I have the September Right to Know report. We received 7 requests. It took about 24 hours to compile all the responses. We had 6 partial denials and 1 denial this month,
Okay.
due to the fact that records were not in our possession, so
Right.
that's why.
Yeah, for those who may not know, the reason we started doing this a few years ago is the amount of time that it takes to compile a right-to-know request. And so here is 24 hours of labor, of time spent gathering that information, and sometimes it takes more than that. So anyway, there's a lot of hard work on your behalf, Cheryl. Thank you. Okay. Nick, do you have anything from code enforcement? Matt Waldinger?
Nothing further.
Gary Snyder, anything from Public Works? Okay. Okay, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens that would like to say anything regarding township? None? How about our counselors? Do you have anything you want to say? You want to come forward and be identified? Or no? Well, we don't want to put you on the spot or anything, so. Okay, well, with all that said, I think we can adjourn the meeting. The time is 10:12.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we are gone.